Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this tutorial I'll be demonstrating how to create this princess dress cake. With some hybrid buttercream I'm attaching my 7-inch cake on top and filling in with some more of that vanilla buttercream. The recipe for this is linked in the description box below. Once that's nice and smooth, I pop on my next layer. So I have 3 cakes that I've used here in total, and they've all been cut in half, so it's a pretty tall bottom tier cake. I'm creating the crumb coat here. This is a layer of buttercream. It's usually a thin layer that traps in any crumbs, and that stops any imperfections getting into the final layer of our frosting. Going around the whole cake and then smoothing it down with my frosting scraper. Take your spatula and bring in that lip of frosting to the center and allow that cake to rest in your freezer for at least 10 minutes or in your fridge for 20. In the meantime, I'll work on my top tier. I have a large cake board, applying a 5-inch cake board on top and into the freezer she goes so it doesn't move around. And then I'll start building my top tier. This is a 5-inch cake and it is sitting on the 5-inch cake board. We follow the exact same steps, creating the crumb coat, bringing that lip of frosting to the center, and into the freezer she goes for 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, we can apply our final layer of frosting, and I've tinted my buttercream turquoise with Americolor Gel Food Color in turquoise. Starting at the top, making sure it's nice and flat at the top, and then applying abundantly the buttercream all around my cake. Take your frosting scraper and go around the cake until it's all smoothed down. And I find it creates a nice smooth finish when you go around slowly. Remove that top lip. Again, just bring it to the center and let that rest in your freezer for 10 minutes and while we work on our bottom tier. For the bottom tier, I'm still using a turquoise buttercream, but I'm not going to create a very thick layer because we're going to be piping over this completely. Whenever you do a tiered cake, push in some dowels. I have 3 dowels here to support the weight of my top tier, and they've been cut flush with the top of the cake. Chuck your top tier on top. Because it's been in the freezer, we can handle it with our hands and it won't dent our buttercream. Now in a piping bag fitted with a 1M tip, I'm adding about 1 to 2 teaspoons of frosting, all in different colors. So I have some electric pink, some egg yellow, and I believe that was turquoise. Starting from the top tier, piping it, making sure it touches the cake, and then bringing that frosting down to the very bottom of the cake board. And turn your piping bag as you do this, because you'll find different sections of your piping bag will push out different colors. And this gives it a really nice sort of diverse look of the whole dress. And continue this all the way around the cake. If you were to keep piping with the same section of the bag and then you refill, you'll stop piping again and you'll notice that the pattern changes. So you want to make sure the pattern keeps changing all throughout your piping. So keep twisting that bag. Let that set in the fridge, and in the meantime we'll create our crown. I have some pink colored fondant and I am rolling that out to about 4 to 5 millimeters in thickness. Then I've got a piece of A4 paper and I'm cutting diagonally from the bottom to the middle. And this is going to be our template for our crown. If you unfold it, it has a roughly like a crown looking shape. Lay that template over your fondant and cut off the fondant around the template. I also like to corner off the edges there, so I'm just cutting off the excess so it's nice and sharp. And then using a 1M tip, I'm just popping half holes on each side of that point, and then 2 other holes right next to that one again. You can leave it at that, or you could also poke a hole in the center of a particular shape. You could do a heart. I did a blossom here. After about 10 minutes that's been drying, set it upwards and fold it in and let it dry completely this way. For the final touch on our cake, I'm adding blossoms around the border, and this just hides the seam where the piping started. For some extra detail, I've got a brush with a little bit of water, adding it into the center of the flowers, and then popping in some edible gold pearls. For the finishing touch on my crown, poking in some holes to guide me where to pop my edible pearls. You could even just leave it at that, that looks good as well. And with a little bit of water, attaching those edible pearls. And you're done. So you create a very fun and easy to do 2-tier cake for your little princess. Kind of reminds me of a dress cake, the bottom tier here, very puffy kind of dress like. And I use the 1M tip specifically because it does give off a lot of frilly bits. If you were to use like an open star tip instead, or like a 6B, you wouldn't quite get that dress like frill happening. So if you can find a 1M tip, that would be the best one to choose for this particular effect. But yes, experiment with the colors, and again, if you do try this, please send me some photos. I'd love to see how you guys kind of make these or your own take on the idea. And that's tutorial for this Tuesday. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next week.